Hey, I'm Grant, and welcome to Stay of the Channel for Friday, December 17th. Haven't made one of these in like a month because I've been super busy, but I want to just kind of at least do some kind of update because I'm trying to set out some goals about getting stuff out on my own time frame, and I feel like this is actually a really good way to do it. So for the past month, I would say the main thing I've been working on, honestly, is just stuff around the house. I have leaves now I have to pick up, and they are a never-ending nightmare. And it's definitely something where it's like, well, I could put off like working on a video, but I kind of have to get that done before the end of the week. So stuff like that's just been coming up, but I have been working more on that little Code Vein project. And the thing with that is, I want to kind of approach it in what I think of as a proper way. So I spent honestly probably a good 2 weeks with my free time where I wanted to make this, I guess you could call it a transition or almost an opening for that little project, something that's like exactly 10 seconds long. I go out and get some nice, unique audio. I put on some pretty basic effects, but it's a good, like, cut between episodes that I can put together. Something that feels like, hey, you start the episode, you at least get some idea of the quality. It's not just going to be me doing like the most bare let's play ever. It's like, hey, okay, so this guy's trying at least. And I finally got to a good point on that where I understood how I needed to create it as well as actually creating it. And I moved on to the next thing. I've actually I re-recorded this intro, like this preamble, as I'm calling it, for Code Vein that I wanted to do. And as part of that, I was trying to find a good way to frame it because I have sat down and I just felt like, well, part of me works in like what I call like iterations coming from like my software background. So part of me is like, hey, just get the project out there. So stuff like Facecam, doing stuff like this, I was like, oh, let's not worry about it because let's just get the ball rolling. And once I'm back in the swing of making stuff, then it'll be easier to kind of loop that in. But then another part of me was like, well, I'm just phoning it in. It's not that hard. So I re-recorded it, actually put in Facecam of me talking because I like to gesture. And honestly, I was trying to think, it's like, what's the point of making this little 10-second semi-intricate intro that's not going to play until the second episode if the first episode or episode 0 was just going to be a voiceover over the title screen? It's like, that's not the feeling I want to sell. So I'm working on a thing in Photoshop where I'm trying to make a couple different picture-in-picture effects. So, like, for example, on the preamble, it's going to be 90% me. Basically, it's going to be this for 90% of the screen. But on the bottom right, I do want to put the looping title screen. And then when I talk about like specific things, like I want to talk about the intro to it because I can't put that up because it's going to be copywritten because of the animation and the song for sure. It's like, well, I'll put a snippet of it while I talk about it so you can at least be like, okay, I get what that is. But I don't want to do just something very simple like a Twitch streamer's first attempt where it really is just I took one camera feed and pasted it over another. So I'm trying to loop through and be like, okay, well, I want to make a background that kind of ties it all together and like I can set the two feeds into, but I want it to be branded off of the game. So I go in and I'm like trying to sample different colors from the menus because I really like the colors of the menus in that game. That really like pale tan with like this deep, almost like offset white gray, I think is really neat. And then trying to recreate that's been kind of a pain because, like with the intro, it's half doing it and half teaching myself to do it properly. Because if I just force it out, let's say, using the knowledge I have now, I feel like then I won't get growth, which is half the point of doing things like that. So, like, for example, right now what I'm looking into is I'm trying to make a grid pattern, essentially like a series of X's where each line is evenly spaced. I could brute force that by just zooming really far in and counting over 70 pixels at a time, but that's clearly not the correct way. It's like, oh, well, I can copy paste, but if I copy paste, it will paste it slightly offset, usually in the center. So then it's like I've got to realign it. So it's like, okay, well, let me sit down and actually figure out what's the correct way to do this. Like, how can I say like clone, but clone 70 pixels exactly to the right and do that multiple times? Okay, let me go through and Because, for example, I want to be able to do it not only multiple times to create multiple boxes, but I'm debating. It's like, well, what if I don't want a 90-degree corner? What if I want something a little more squished to say? It's like, okay, well, let me look into how to do that properly. It's like, it's not that hard to do like the little squished rhombus, but like if it takes me 10 minutes to physically pen tool them out, I'm way likely to experiment. So part of it's just been going through and doing that. And to be honest, when I've got to teach myself stuff, it's way more difficult to put into my schedule because I don't know how long it's going to take me to learn. Especially, I don't know how long it's going to take me to learn correctly. So it's like, say I spend 20 minutes on it, don't really find an answer. Should I stop? Should I not? Maybe if I spend another 10 minutes, I find the right answer. And it's just like that back and forth, I think, that's kind of caused me to stall out, especially when I can fall back on just household chores here that are things that need to be done equally, honestly. But I wanted to kind of set out some goals for this day of the channel. So what I really want to have done by next week internally is I want to have my art, like the picture-in-picture stuff, done so that I can start like actually producing stuff. But I also want to try by the end of the month, I want to put out a OSRs video. Originally, the OSRs videos were just something to help me work on the speed of editing. They weren't really meant to be their own thing per se. Like what I say in them is still my opinions, but I was never shooting for quality. But I want to kind of like bring the quality on that up, similar as what I'm working on with like Code Vein, so I can like reapply some of those skills while also making a point to do at least one a month. Because I don't plan on this being like a OSRs channel, but I feel like there are things I wouldn't mind talking about once I get that ball rolling. However, I'm also trying to keep it lightweight, maybe only like once a month, because again, not trying to be super OSRs focused on this channel, but also I feel like I would just run all my ideas out because honestly, I'm not doing that much in that game. I've kind of done the majority of things, and unless I want to go super end game, it's hard to have too many opinions when I'm just using it as like I'm waiting for some code to compile, let me AFK over here. It's a little bit harder to create opinions to talk about on that. But I do have a backlog I want to go through, so that's kind of my goal. Get at least one of those out this month, and for me to kind of finish the Code Vein, I guess you could say art assets, but that seems a little bit too highbrow to describe what I'm working on. Like, it's not that complicated. But I want to get that all functionally done so that I can go back to filming Code Vein kind of proper. And once I have that, like where it's like I've got a format, I know what I need to do, I just need to sit down and film, it's a lot easier for me to schedule. And once they're all in my editor, that alone makes it easier because I don't have to set up a camera anymore. I don't have to pull out potentially any lights anymore, although I do need to look into getting some good lights because the lighting down here is terrible for a camera, it feels like. And I can just sit in my editor, and it doesn't have to be like this big 2-hour chunk. That's one of the things I actually really liked about editing is it became this really nice AFK tool. Like when I was doing my cooking show, which is currently on hiatus, it was really nice that like, hey, I don't need this to be done for 2 weeks. But if I was like, hey, I've got 5 minutes, let me edit 5 minutes of my cooking show because it's a pretty simple edit. It was kind of nice. So I just want to get that kind of rolling so I can easily hop in and out. And I'm hoping that will help me continue putting stuff out down the line. So that's the goals for the month. Obviously, I've got like Christmas coming up and family things. So that's going to certainly interfere. But I'm hoping to take some PTO off for my job just to like get everything out. I've got plenty I need to kind of work through, and that should give me some extra time to work on projects like this or to get ahead at projects at my house. Like I've been wanting to install a bathroom down here, and that's also been eating up a bunch of time. And it's something I just need to pull the trigger on and go do, much like this Code Vein Photoshop project. I just need to sit down and do it. It's been open on my PC for 2 weeks, basically untouched. I just save it when I need to update Windows, and I just need to sit down and pull the trigger on it. But that's the update for today. I've actually got to go start it and work on that a bit since I just committed to it. But I've been Grant, I'll see you guys again next week. Bye.